Okay, so for the video's sake, this is the kickoff for the Certified Flow Designer information session number 1. And just starting to go into Jason showing the NCE project, which is one of our more or larger projects, and involves actually some live data integration feeds, which Jason and Bill can talk about.
Yeah, so this project, it's not public yet, but it will be on a publicly hosted website at the UNDP. This is the Nature, Climate, Energy group within the Bureau of Public Policy and Programs, Public Policy and Programs. And what this is all of the projects that they have around the world supporting various aspects of climate and energy. Yeah, all of it. When you hear about, the UN is working on this project or is engaged in some particular event around the world, these are the projects that get funded. So for example, I just clicked on a dot. So here in Somalia, this is a climate smart approaches for rural communities of Somalia. And we can get like a longer descriptions of some of these. So what this project does is enables people to isolate down certain aspects of the projects based on, are they addressing fragile OECD, very fragile, countries. Each one of these projects has its own full pipeline and timeline and data behind it. But by letting people be able to sort any of these projects really quickly and see them both on a couple of different axes here, as well as the end result. So total, there's $5 billion worth of grants, and we can spread those across technical teams or regions or sub-regions. So you can see where the money is being spent and what kinds of things it's being spent on, like water and oceans. What are the water and oceans projects around the world? Do they tend to be, water and oceans projects tend to be extremely fragile countries? No, actually, there's only one project that is the intersection of those two. What about normal fragile countries? Okay, just a few there. So being able to explore and drill down quickly across these is the goal here. And then what impact are these projects having on the world? So how many of these projects are directly benefiting women? And what is the total number being affected? How many projects are helping restore land or helping restore marine fisheries? And what are the end results? Are they being effective? Are they succeeding in doing that? And you can get a sense across that. So that's one example of a UNDP project, which takes quite a bit of materials that we have not exposed to the UI yet, functionality that's still in the engine, but not in the UI, and that'll be coming to the UI this fall. Here's another project which is a little more straightforward. It still has a fair amount of well, this was a project that can be built entirely in the UI. This project is still on the UNDP website. So we created this last year for the UN General Assembly, and it's talking about what is happening with COVID. And how are they addressing that, and what are some of the predictive models on how COVID is impacting certain populations, like female poverty, etc. What's nice about this particular project is you can actually go ahead and select each region that you're interested in and pull those up separately. And then finally, there's a really dramatic last step here, which is are we on track in order to address the climate challenge? And the agreements that were made for the Paris Agreement to try to keep global climate change to 1.5 degrees Celsius, the current targets and pledges are nowhere near where they need to be. This is really a huge gap on where we're at, and then just showing, how much each area is engaged with this. So these are two projects. This one, the second one is, a great candidate for this team. The first one will be a great candidate for this team in the coming months. And like I say, takes advantage of functionality that doesn't exist in the UI yet.
Awesome. So I don't know if you guys have seen those types of flows before, but these more dashboardy flows, I think have a lot of potential, but to Jason's point, have a lot of complications. So Jason, I don't know if you have the editor up, but one thing that's everyone will obviously get access to is the flow editor, which is how we create all of this content. So in terms of the skills and background that are sort of needed, having familiarity and comfort handling data sets, mostly CSV files, not necessarily needing to work with very large data sets, but being able to be comfortably navigate Excel and manipulate data to a certain degree is extremely helpful. And the other part is that you don't really need to learn how to code. It's really a no-code environment in order to build these. And so what I'm showing you here is the flow editor for those who haven't seen it already. You have this object timeline, which allows you to create things that are steps, very similar to a PowerPoint presentation where I add different slides. Here I'm adding different steps along a series of time. And so here we're looking at life expectancy data. I'll go ahead and add a step, and instead of looking at this randomly, we'll start to actually put this onto a map. So I'll put year on the width axis, on the height axis, I'll put life expectancy. And there's obviously far more you can do. And as we go into our program together for the 4 weeks, you will become very accustomed with all of these different menus and the different selections within them to really build out a visualization and build out, more importantly, the interactions that you can define within the flow itself, which are common for many of these enterprise requests where it's building the highlight capability, it's building the drilling capability, and things like that. So for some of the ones that we can still show, one of which is Nielsen that we'll be driving through. They had built this pretty amazing report looking at the impact of COVID and where people ended up financially after it. And so they had this huge assessment where they basically defined these 5 personas of the different types of people, thrivers through strugglers, and how they have progressed. And I think it's still shocking to me looking at these numbers to realize that it's only 6% of people are doing better financially than before the pandemic. Everyone else is either unchanged or doing worse, more or less. Anyway, so there's a whole presentation here around that number. But I think one thing that's really we're doing is we're helping add empathy to data. That in many ways, data and story have always been sort of disconnected. And that by using flow, we're helping to bring the story back into the data to represent it and to help create meaningful conversations that combine sort of that empathy that you can drive with a story with the logic of a data visualization and data project. And it's been really exciting, I'd say, during this way to see how many people have gone out and really created flows that they shared then publicly. We have TF1, which is a broadcast station out in France. Looks like this. And anyways, so a lot of people creating and presenting things out in the world. And so I think that in addition to these flow designer seats that were encouraging access or people to build these flows, that there will also be an opportunity for presenting flows. That brands want someone else to actually present either on their social channels if they have a following, or to be able to build content that they can post as a 2D video as well. So that's not as scoped out, but it's sort of a hunch is that those that want to play a role of being more of a flow presenter as opposed to necessarily just a flow creator is also something that will likely start to emerge as well here. So we have brands, we have those that are actually building the flow, which is this group, the Certified Flow Designer Program, and then those that can really present it, which is not necessarily always the person that created it. And so that will be coming about here soon as well.
When you talk about presentation, what do you mean? What's an example of that, Michael?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I think most people have seen a lot of these kinds of things, but let me just quickly show. So this is one I point back to is from a while back. This is back in 2020, so more than 2 years ago, creating, these AR type videos have become products in and of themselves, where brands and companies want to create content that they can share internally, as well as externally just through video. And so with Flow, you have the ability to create these AR videos that can be shared widely. And so the Certified Flow Designer Program is really designed not for creating these end videos at the end of the day, but really creating the flow that allows someone to build their own AR video presentation. And that said, I think this emerging area of those that are really more on the presentation side or have a following in and of themselves can post there as well. And so, yeah, for those that are interested, we definitely want to release more and more people to be able to create these types of videos. And yeah, so those are sort of some of the AR video components that I'm describing, and that involves both longer form media, but also short form as well. I can't fully describe it yet, but there will be a lot more happening in this presentation layer, where it's not only just going to be augmented reality, but that you can actually do this in virtual reality as well to create pretty compelling 2D visualization or 2D videos that you can share with the world. And as that gets further along, we'll definitely share more and more. So with that, why don't we go ahead, and what I was planning to do is ask one more question, but then start to go over to the breakout rooms. In the meantime, was there any questions?
There's some discussion we're having on the chat around augmented reality, and I can say that we are a Meta beta developer. I have the new Meta headset off to my right, obviously can't show. So we will have some really interesting support for the next generation of headsets. In fact, one of the things that we are doing is, in addition to our WebXR environment, so everything we do works on the web, that's core to who we are and what we do. In addition to that, we will have a native Unity app, which will be available on the Oculus Store. Probably won't be in the store until January or so, but that will play and perform those same flows that you're creating on the web, just translate right over. And with that, you have, really the extensive multi-user environments that you're, come to know and are familiar with in VR. So we're using the Avatar SDK from Oculus, so you see full quality avatars, and taking advantage of the new features on the headset. The biggest, of course, is mixed reality. So you can open the cameras on the headset and see the flows floating in the room and in front of you, similar to what we do today on the phone, but a headset mounted AR is pretty exciting. It really feels like the future. And so we love VR, but we actually feel that AR is where we will have the biggest growth in the metaverse in the long term.
Yeah. And, it's, I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but, some of the very early projects were actually very expensive projects, were about multi-user AR. And this was with the Magic Leap, all in person, with all people interacting with the contents literally floating around them. So if you can imagine people sitting around a table discussing something and looking at it, that's exactly what we built. And then the pandemic hit and no one was meeting in person, so that we quickly shifted things further away from that, but it does seem like things are moving back in that direction. So that definitely could arise as something, that's, becomes more common, I guess. Cool. So let me ask one more question here.
Guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Michael, Jason, I have a quick question for you. So I'm currently working as a data scientist in the industry, and I'm curious to know what you guys think of the different applications of Flow on the job for people or professionals like myself, analysts or scientists in our day-to-day jobs. Do you think this would come, this like the transition from like dashboards and visualization softwares into something where we're using AR or applications such as Flow? Do you think, I know you talked about brands being a major use case of Flow, but I'm just curious to know how do you guys envision this application?
So I'm sure I'll be curious to get some other responses here, more from Jason and Bill, but I think long term, it's every movie we've seen. It's literally this data floating in front of you and can be used more for this analysis purpose to find insights, explore your data, share data, collaborate around it. It's literally every movie we've seen. It's sort of there in front of us. But I think the thing we've figured out that others have not is, how do you get there? And the way you get there is not by throwing people into an immersive environment and saying like, go at it and like, have at it, but instead sort of working people into it by creating these data stories that are sort of small snippets that bring you in. Because I think the thing that's often missed, especially from more of the internal use cases for more data analysts finding insights and communicating those upwards, is that the focus is on the analysis and less about the communication of those insights outwards.
Right.
Our core focus has really been, how do we more effectively communicate it? And from that, then we can add more of these analysis features and more for the, immersive spaces type thing. But that's one thing I think we've definitely honed in on. But that said, I think, long tail, that exploration future could hold, but it's not. I try to hold people back from over-indexing too much on it today,
right?
Because you have to get there first, I'd say. Jason or Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
Just in the hardware side of the equation with immersive, technology. Michael likes to say you can lead a horse to water, but you don't want to dunk its head in. It's nice to be able to have these 3D environments that work on a flat screen, work on a phone, and over time, people will get more comfortable with headsets. And that's where we end up, and we get a real nice multiplier. But that said, that's not every step of that process. It has value, right? The UNDP putting these things in the General Assembly just as a part of a video stream, a talking head with data.
Yeah.
That reaches, tens, hundreds of thousands of people and has value today. You don't have to wait for the headsets to really make an impact. And even true for, if, as an internal data scientist in an organization, key decisions need to be made by senior management. If you can help them get to those decisions much faster and keep them engaged, think about doing a presentation to your corporate board. You as a data analyst have spent 100 hours, 200 hours figuring out insights. Well, how can you really maximize that insight to have that impact on your board or on a customer, on an external customer? How do you have that? And we think Flow is the way to do that. This is the way to get them engaged, have them be able to ask good questions, still be able to drill into the data to answer those questions in real time. It's not like producing a video, but at the end of the day, that's still today. As Michael said, today we're focused more on that communication as our differentiator from Tableau than an analysis use case.
Right. Yeah. Engagement and interaction, I think those are the key indicators of success for us if people or senior leaders are engaging with our analysis or our content. Totally agree with you.
Thanks for your questions,
Yeah.
Saini.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've got one quick follow-on to that. Let me share my screen here real quick. I'm just going to show you a flow that I've worked on with a fairly new user, actually. Flow is a data storytelling product, and it turns out this use case, which I've been given permission to show here, is a commercial real estate kind of application. And our goal is to have you guys be conversant enough with flow over the next several weeks where you'll be able to generate a step that looks like this quite easily. It's a 3D step that tells a story of commercial real estate. And the story is, hey, we have our act together. We know how, by the way we control temperature in buildings, by the way we manage our power, by the way we manage access and the work orders that come into our building, we have a really good concept of commercial real estate, and you're going to be very happy tenants. Okay. And, we have commercial real estate in the Boston, New York, and Texas area of this country. Each of these objects individually is pretty simple. And when you put this together on a single step here, you can tell a story. It turns out this flow is about a 15-step flow, but this is kind of the lead-on flow. And the purpose of this is to set the stage for the story, okay? And this flow has been crafted also for presentation on 2D flat screens, like I'm doing right now, or in AR, or in VR. This is an excellent example of a flow that was built from the ground up with VR in mind. So this customer, he invites his prospective people who are going to view this flow to, if they want to view it in VR, to come into this garden of visualizations and wander around in VR and experience in a very intimate way what their concepts of commercial real estate management are. So, our goal is to enable you guys to be able to craft stories like this that will be very memorable to your clientele as you go forward. So just wanted to show that real quick. It's an interesting flow. I've got one of the best jobs in the world in that I have people who share their flows with me every day, and I get to see this kind of creativity and brainstorm with customers and making these kinds of things happen. Any questions about that?
This looks great. I actually found you guys through TikTok. So
wonderful.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Michael has had some 23 million views on TikTok. So it has definitely helped our company, our business.
Yeah.
And
sure.
So with that, we're just gonna, I realize we're running out of time here, but we'll do the breakout rooms just very quickly. But just to summarize, this is the first intro session, but we'll have basically 4 weeks starting not next week, but the week after for these certified flow designer training program. And at the end of which you will present basically a capstone flow back to us. I'll send an email, sort of all of the different things that we require to reach this certification level, but it's essentially making sure that you're reaching a certain bar so that we can pass you on to brands to connect you directly. So that's the overall intent. And we basically see a layer of projects that are sort of this $1,000 to $5,000 range of project budgets typically that are faster turnarounds, a couple weeks in length. And then there's the much larger engagements, which usually involve far more than just the visualization, but more analysis, data prep, and other elements there. So that's sort of like general scope here. And so we'll expect an email after with a lot more details. But for the last couple minutes, and we'll probably end in these breakout rooms, I'm just going to create these 3 rooms. One for professionals with Bill, another professional group, since most people seem like we're professionals, and then the last one with education with Jason. So if I can ask you to join an appropriate room, and if there's too many people in with Bill, please join with me. And if you don't have to follow specific guidelines there. If you just want to talk with Jason or Bill or me, we'll join those and we'll talk to you guys there.
Oh, hi, Michael.
Hey, Bill.
Hi, okay.
Wasn't sure or my group finished up, so we closed down. So I think we're
Yeah, it looks like Rashad from my group is still on and Richard Wong is still on.
yeah, I think
We're done with
Richard.
my group.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I think I'm gonna close down here. Let me stop this.